Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butz, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by Garden Cult, garden design and coaching. For a 15% discount on virtual garden consultations and coaching sessions, use code HRN15. Learn more at gardencult.com.
Good food is worth 1,000 words. Hi, this is Aarti Menon, and I'm delighted to share a new podcast with you, My Family Recipe, from Food 52 and Heritage Radio Network. Each episode of My Family Recipe brings you a cherished heirloom recipe and the story behind it, from voices across the world of food. Join us as we explore experiences of loss and remembering, accompanied by homemade baked ziti, and chronicles of comfort and celebration paired with the perfect chocolate cake. I'll interview writers and chefs, parents and children, about what's passed down along with the foods that we know and love. Adapted from Food 52's much-loved column of the same name, the My Family Recipe podcast will bring its pages to life. I grew up literally hanging off the petticoat tails of 3 generations of Indian matriarchs who used food to speak their everyday language of love. As a result, I've always reached for the human side of recipes and food traditions. As the editor of the essay series, I work with writers to explore the histories behind these passed-down dishes, but also what they mean for the present and our futures. I'm so excited to dig deeper into the stories and voices behind them. Subscribe to My Family Recipe from Food 52 and Heritage Radio Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you like to listen. Cherished dishes and delicious stories coming this fall.
Hola familia, bienvenidos. Welcome to a very exciting episode of Cooking in Mexican from A to Z. We're launching our 3rd season, and we thought it would be very apropos and very, I think, significant to start season 3 with
just the two of us.
Just the two of us, and also, exactly, Mom. And starting with something that I think is so important and is actually the foundation of what you and I believe in is Mexican cooking techniques and flavor principles, right? Or you like to call them building blocks, Mom. Let's talk a little bit about that and how you came up with that idea, Mom.
When I first went to teach at the Culinary Institute in Napa, you know, it was for a consulting job for Marriott hotels. Mm-hmm. And they were bringing in the GMs, the directors of food and beverage, and the executive chefs. So I wanted to give them a total journey into what Mexican food is, and I wanted to give them recipes that they could use in non-traditional Mexican foods. So what I did was that I broke up, let's say, pico de gallo, you know, the fresh salsa, and you can take that, learn how to make perfectly with all those wonderful, exciting flavors and everything, and take it, saute it, and beat some eggs in, and cook it quickly with tortilla chips, and you have huevos a la mexicana.
Yep.
Or you can take that sauce, put butter or oil on it, add spices, and put fish in it, and cook my red snapper hash.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and or you can take zucchini, cut it up nicely, and then put the pico de gallo in the pan, and then cook it, and then you've got this fresh zucchini with all this fresh flavors.
Yeah.
So that's just one of the building blocks
Yeah.
that I like to use, and it's great for people who don't know how to cook a lot, but have to cook, you know, and so they can make one recipe and then use it in different ways.
Yeah. So in essence, that base recipe spawns a bunch of other different directions that a home cook or even a professional could take. And first of all, I think it's really smart because you're cross utilizing ingredients, so it's very efficient as far as making sure that recipe and the time that you take to produce that can go in many different directions, right? So, and I think
Exactly.
I think it's also a beautiful tool to teach corporations like Marriott to be consistent and throughout the flavor profiles and things that they need to teach to their staff. So it makes a lot of sense. Um, let's talk a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, Mom. Well, my second book is very much inspired by that whole ethos of having these flavor bases and flavor profiles that can go into many different directions. And my second book, Simple Food, Big Flavor, is a lot of that, which is inspired by you, Mom. Um,
Thank you.
of course. So when you're talking about the building blocks, let's talk about the ingredients that sort of make up that Mesoamerican diet, and those ingredients that are the foundation, the pillars of how to make all these wonderful traditional Mexican recipes, right? Let's talk a little bit about what those are. What would have Cortez encountered when he landed in the port of Veracruz in 1519, right, Mom? What were some of the things that he would have saw in a market?
He would have seen zucchini. He would have seen different kinds of green chilies. He would have seen tomatoes, no limes, no oranges, anything like that. We would have corn, of course. Which was beans. Let's see, no potatoes because the potatoes came later.
Chilies, cacao.
Cacao. So, and then they were bringing all their own ingredients. So they get there with them, and they combine them with what they found, and the new cuisine was born.
Yes. And let's talk a little bit about the protein sources, right? So we're talking about, I mean, if you wanted to say in a brief synopsis, what are those, that Mesoamerican diet? We're talking about corn, tomatoes, chiles, squashes, corn, cacao. Those are the things that are the basis of a lot of the traditional recipes, right? But let's talk about the protein sources. What do indigenous people in Mesoamerica really eat at that time? Because what we think of now as a Mexican menu or cuisine is very much different based on the proteins. Let's talk about that.
They would eat bugs, honey.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Bug said in our thing. They would eat a lot of bugs. They would eat some wild, hare or maybe deer, but it was actually a plant-based diet. Which I asked this man, a Mije indigenous person, and I said, "How is the crisis affecting you?" Because it was during one of the usual crises, and he said, "It doesn't affect me at all." Because we eat are beans, chili, tortillas, and there's always plenty of that.
Yeah.
So they were able to sustain themselves very well without the protein.
Yeah. And it's funny, we talk with a lot of Tio, who I live with, Tio Mario, and he goes, we were vegans. We were vegans out of necessity. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We always had
Yeah.
frijoles, arroz, tortillas, and salsa at the house. And Tia would tell me that they would only really have protein on the weekends, where there was a sopa of chicken or beef or something to kind of have this more extended meal. So I just found that very interesting. The original vegan diet.
People do go back to that, because it's so satisfying. Because you have the chilies provide all the vitamins. The tomatoes, have a vitamin C. So it's a really wonderful diet. But there's so many other flavors that make up this building block culture that I have. Do you have any particular building blocks that you use all the time?
Well, yeah. I mean, Mom, for me, I know that you've had that really beautiful chipotle base that you use, right? And yours is very
Hmm.
simple, right? Yours is just chipotle and garlic, right? Or talk to me a little
And
bit
and oregano,
and oregano.
Mexican oregano.
Mm,
Yeah, and that is one of the things that I use the most, because it's so simple to make. You just take a can of chipotles, but first put it in the food processor, let's say, one or two garlic cloves with a teaspoon of salt, whirl that around, add the can of chipotles with juice and all, whirl it around, and then with your hands go like that with the oregano so it releases the aroma, and then you mix it again, and then you start pouring a little bit of olive oil
yeah,
or other oil into the thing, and then when it's at the right texture, you take it out, and you can use it infinite ways.
yeah, yeah.
For instance, that salmon that I make, which is salmon is not a fish that is native to Mexico or anything. So the thing is that that's how I started doing this for you. Grill smoke it. You cook it in a grill and then cover it with a baking tray to capture the smoke.
Yep.
But eventually just turn into like a broiled dish or a grilled broiled dish or simply grilled. So you just put the paste on it, but a little bit of olive oil, and you grill it. But then you take more paste and make a mayonnaise, with it. Take them like an aioli, and then you might have like some tikka masala and everything, and have added to a little bit of vinaigrette. So you have another layer of flavor, So it is infinitely versatile. That I always have that in the refrigerator.
Yeah, I mean, Mom, that was one of your iconic dishes at your namesake restaurant, Zarela, which opened in 1987, which brought these flavors and these building blocks and ingredients and cooking techniques that a lot of the New York audience and, frankly, the United States had not seen. Um, if you ask me what are some of my flavor bases, I actually took a lot of inspiration from yours and changed it ever so slightly to it's called Chipotle Love. And basically, what I go ahead and do is take some garlic cloves and confit them in some neutral oil till they're nice and nutty and caramelized. And then I take that with a can of chipotle, lime zest, okay, not fresh lime zest. And then I take a nice a bushel of a lot of the stems of the cilantro and buzz that up with the residual oil. So I like that roasted garlic flavor with the roasted kind of smoky chipotle. So I use
Yeah,
that,
it's a it's
and
a deeper.
it's a little bit deeper, and the idea of the garlic and the lime zest kind of wakes it up a little bit. So that's how I
Yeah.
riffed off of that one.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
And what do you use it on?
Oh, I mean, obviously a chicken marinade would be the most ideal thing, If you're doing half spatchcock chicken, let that sit for 6 to 12 hours, and then you have a really beautiful marinade. Cook it off direct heat, almost to kind of slow roast it in a barbecue, and you really can't go wrong with that. And then you can hack that up. You can add that to mayonnaise with some lime juice and make a chipotle mayo. You can add extra citrus and make a vinaigrette with it. So it's very versatile, as you can imagine.
Well, I've been cooking with a lot because we just launched
Yes.
our new website. It's www.zarela.com, and we've been cooking a lot of different things, and I discovered a lot of little
Hmm.
tricks your mama, my mother, used to do. As far
Yeah.
as cooking
Which are
techniques.
some of those?
The one that really blew my mind actually was I was making this beef with green chili because I get it fresh at an outrageous price from Hatch, New Mexico, because there's nothing like that green chili, from Hatch. It's such a particular flavor, whether it's dried or fresh. And you're sauteing onions, and all of a sudden she stops and makes a roux in the middle of that, and it mixes it into the onions that are cooking, and because make them a little crusty, because of the roux, and added a whole other layer of flavor. And then the other thing she used to always do was she would always at the end of a dish she would always grind up some garlic and put a little bit of water and put it in the dish, so you always had the flavor of the raw garlic.
Mm. And the water will help take some of its abrasiveness away. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, whether working with onions or garlic, sometimes like to temper the aggressive flavor with either vinegar, water, and salt to kind of calm it down. But that makes a lot of sense.
I know it's wonderful. I mean, it just livens everything up. So it's like, so I'm writing down the things that she used to do. She wouldn't put any herbs like that would be too strident, and she would make a tea, like a bay leaf tea, and then add it a little bit at a time until she had the exact flavor that she wanted. You know, she was a natural cook and a natural singer and a natural pianist and a natural everything. She had a lot of talent there.
What really differentiates, I think, your cuisine from Mema was, I think, very resourceful in the sense that she would use bouillon, right? Use bouillon as a flavor principle. And then, she had that great recipe for like a pork loin with prunes and Coca-Cola and chile. Like this, I thought it was very reflective of the time that she was cooking in, where you had to be resourceful and all that.
Well, especially at the ranch.
Yeah.
You know, even though we had this. I have an article up on my website called "My Mother's Pantry," and we had this pantry. You would go in, and then she had this big metal, trash can full of pastas and. Kind of. But then when you started looking at the shelves, she had all the French stuff. She had like shells for escargot, and she had all these wonderful things. Then she had the Italian things, and then she had the Chinese because we always used to make chop suey, with so there were always like bamboo slices and all this kind of stuff. So. And remember, this was like in the 50s. So that she was making all this stuff, all the time was amazing, because she had all the ingredients on hand.
Yeah, she was revolutionary in the sense that, a lot of canned products, obviously. The ranch is kind of remote, right? So, you maybe go into town, once a month, Mom, and get supplies and all of the larder, if you will, right? And then bring it back. So you had to use what you had. And obviously you had that beautiful abundance of beef and different sort of livestock that you had on the ranch. But I thought Mema was so forward thinking in the idea of introducing you guys to different cuisines of the world. And I thought that was really special.
Oh, yes, she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just did a really nice podcast with this website called Eat Darling Eat, and it's about mothers and daughters. And the thing is that I said, well, in our family, it would not be eat, darling. It would be don't eat, darling, don't eat. But the thing is that there were all these beautiful stories about. I used that podcast to talk about how she taught us manners and how they wanted us to learn how to tell stories and be engaged in the meal, and how she set the table with linen. Tablecloth, cloth napkins, china, her blue Delft china. So it was, at the ranch, there wasn't much to do except enjoy wonderful food.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think you instilled that into Rodrigo and I, as far as being able to sit down, enjoy a meal, understand the part of the sobremesa afterwards, the conversation. I thought that's something that I carried through this day. I was very kind of anxious and nervous when I was younger, and now I've completely done a 180, and now I'm very, very calm and take my time with everything. So I have you to thank for that.
This episode is brought to you by Garden Cult, garden design and coaching. Carmen DeVito is a professional garden designer, certified New York State landscape professional, and the founder of Garden Cult. You may also know her from HRN's home gardening videos and our series, We Dig Plants. Garden Cult is a culmination of Carmen's more than 2 decades of experience designing and building gardens in New York City. Carmen believes that gardens and outdoor spaces should be healthy, environmentally sustainable places that enhance the health of people, nature, and the planet. She knows how to help you maximize the space you've got, help you work with and make the most of the materials, plants, and trees that you already have, and create an outdoor place to use and enjoy for you and your family. Get started at gardencult.com. For a 15% discount on virtual garden consultations and coaching sessions, use code HRN15 through September 30th, 2021. That's code HRN15 at gardencult.com.
So, Mom, we've talked a lot about the ingredients, right? What really sort of constitutes the Mesoamerican Mexican diet as far as ingredients. We've touched upon it from the tomatoes to the corn to the chiles, to the cacao, all the wonderful fresh herbs. Now we have these flavor bases, right? These building blocks, the cooking techniques. How do we utilize those, right? So one of them that I've always been such a fan of what you do is the roasted poblano, onion, and garlic, right? So how do you utilize those? What are some of the dishes that are rendered from that beautiful base?
Well, I could make it with lacoche soup with it. Add the with lacoche sauteed with that. I can stuff a fillet. That's what I served at the Williamsburg Economic Summit when I cooked there in 1983. I served this fillet that you butterfly. And then stuff it with rajas and a little slice of cheese, and it was grilled. It's fantastic. I use them. I sometimes puree them and make a delicious poblano sauce. You could take and maybe with some fried vegetables or like the cauliflower. So I mean,
And Mom, but what was the one dish that everybody would come to Zarela's, your namesake restaurant, and ask for?
The rice.
The rice was kind of next level.
The chilaquiles.
And the chilaquiles. But what was in the rice, Mom?
It was corn, rice, Uncle Ben's. It had to be Uncle Ben's or another converted rice. And then you sauteed poblano, chopped onion and garlic, mix that in. Then it had sour cream mixed with chopped cilantro and onion. So just think of all these layers, and then the cheese.
Yes, of course.
So when you bite into this thing, you have crunchy, you have tangy, and you have spicy, and you have creamy, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful dish.
Yeah, but it uses that flavor base, right, Mom? That building block, as you said. So just those are four beautiful examples of how to use that beautiful mixture of the rajas, right? The onion, the garlic, the roasted poblano, all cut together and used in many different ways. As I'm thinking about that, I'm like, wow, how I've used that at Johnny Sanchez at my restaurant in New Orleans. Well, I've taken the rajas and done that very simply over a grilled hanger steak, over a mesquite, and used that, as just like a simple catalyst for a taco, right? So we make beautiful homemade flour tortillas and have that, and then we serve all the fixings on the side, right? I think that's one beautiful example of just how to keep it very simple and straightforward. So we take a lot of pride in that. And then also sometimes we'll chop up that mixture, Mom, the roasted poblano, the onions and the garlic, and chop it fine and put it into a queso dip, right?
That's what I was going to ask
or a
you.
fundido, if you could, you know what I mean? Roasted kind of cheese casserole. You can do that as well. So there's many different directions you can take with that particular building block, So.
And there's so many different green chilies that the thing is that each one is going to be completely different.
Absolutely.
The poblano will be, and then the hatch. I mean, I'm still in love with the hatch and the northern green chilies. It's too bad that we can't get them here in New York.
Yeah, well, you can get them frozen, and it's not the same, but for anybody that's not familiar with the hatch chiles, they're beautiful. They're native to the northern part of Mexico, all throughout the Southwest. You go to even like a Walmart in New Mexico, and you go out there during the fall, September, October, and you'll see them roast hatch green chilies in the parking lot, right? And you walk off with this beautiful bag of roasted green chilies, and there's nothing more magical than that, right, Mom?
I always have them in the freezer.
Yeah.
And where else is really, really good to use that is in like a beef picadillo.
Yes,
You
indeed.
know, put it and it's wonderful.
So a beef picadillo,
So
right?
that's a
Yeah, a ground beef, seared onion, garlic, some beautiful aromatics. Sometimes, if you want to do traditional, right, Mom, you would do olives, maybe perhaps in there, or potato. There's made one variation of the picadillo, but there's many different. Yeah.
And then the other building block that we haven't talked about, I just did this project for Accorda, this company that makes a medication that has helped me a lot with my condition. I have Parkinson's for 33 years, and I've done really well with it. But so I worked on the building blocks because I thought that would be a really good way to teach people how to cook, because people with Parkinson's have trouble cooking and moving with their hands and stuff. So the other thing that I did is that tomatillo sauce.
Yeah.
The green tomatillo, the fresh sauce. Everybody loves. These three things are three of the favorite flavors of the foreign people who eat Mexican food: chipotle, tomatillo, and the salsa. So you can take a tomatillo and make wonderful. Put an avocado in it and make a sort of low calorie guacamole. The other day somebody came here to the house for this party that I made, and they brought bocconcini.
Wow.
Bocconcini, and I put it in the tomatillo sauce.
Wow, that sounds great.
And it was like it was just a tiny little quick appetizer, so you can. I also started cooking rice or quinoa with it. You brown the rice and then you add the raw tomatillo sauce.
Yeah.
And the chicken stock. It is tangy and it's wonderful. So that's another building block that I absolutely love.
I love that, Mom. So we talked a little bit about, the salsas, of course, the different things. Well, the recados, right? Which is another one of those kind of building blocks of flavors, which is sort of those spice paste and mixtures that you get from Quintana Roo or the Yucatan region of Mexico, which are great, right? They make them with achote traditionally for the wonderful heralded cochinita pibil.
There's also recaudo.
Yeah, recaudo. Yeah,
Recaudo.
yeah, exactly.
Which is, that's another thing my mom used to make. She used to make chicken stock, and then she would saute onion, tomato, and garlic, add it to the stock, and then it would become a totally different, completely flavorful, wonderful thing. And the recaudos are used a lot in the cooking.
Yes.
They're like your mirepoix.
Yes, indeed, indeed, and I love that. And the idea of the adobos, right? So an adobo can be many different things. Adobo traditionally is a wet marinade, but now you're finding marinades, adobos that are just spice mixtures, right? If you would take it like a rub, for instance, right? But at its heart, in its essence, an adobo is a wet marinade that has beautiful spices and chilies and aromatics and put to different meats. What are some of those adobos that spoke to you initially, Mom?
I remember during the Christmas season, we all year we would fatten up this pig, and then right before Christmas we would slaughter it and give one leg to the cowboys and then we would break up the other one and make chorizo, carne adobada, which is probably my favorite thing to make with chili paste. In Oaxaca, in Oaxaca they do the cecina. Well, carne adobada, thin slices of pork. You slather this marinade on it, this adobo, and then sprinkle it with chili seeds, and then hang it up to air dry.
And that's cecina.
For a day or two.
Yeah.
We call it carne adobada.
And that's different, and it's beautiful, and I think when you have, and also you're taking, in essence, not maybe the best quality meat, perhaps, but adding a huge impact of flavor and to kind of uplift it and take it to that next level, right? So.
And you can also use it as a seasoning, the adobo, because they say that you have a soup cooking and you wanna add the extra flavor. I like to have it in the refrigerator in little ice cube trays. different things that I can just take out and put it in the soup pot or wherever I'm making, and it's just the right amount of spiciness. But you have to be very careful when you're making an adobo not to burn any part of it because it
Absolutely.
makes everything bitter. So
And
red
also,
chilies, yeah,
and
you have to
also
watch it
not
very
burning
carefully.
the adobo once it's been marinated. So, if you're gonna put it on chicken, for instance, and it
Exactly.
has skin on it, right? You don't want to do direct heat. You want to do off the heat, put it on that rack up there, cover it, and let it cook because you can burn that adobo on the actual product. So I think that's also very important to mention. When you have those dried chilies and all those different flavors, they're very susceptible to being charred and kind of bitter and overcooked. So you got to be very mindful how you do that. I agree.
Well, you can also take the adobo
Yeah.
and thin it and make it
Órale.
to a sauce for
Yeah,
chilaquiles
I agree.
or enchiladas.
Great. Well, Mom, let's talk a little bit as we conclude. Uh, let's talk a little bit about the website, your website, Zarela.com. What are some of the new additions that you've done on it? What can all of our fans look forward to? And that's a differentiating point from what was there to what you're doing now on the website.
Well, first of all, it's organized,
Mhm.
but I have this area called Zarela's Mind, and that there I talk about trips that I've taken. I have beautiful eulogies for my friends who have died, like Bud Schulberg and Diana, and just honoring them. And I have traditions there, cultural traditions, celebrations in Mexico. Then I have living well with Parkinson's, because my goal right now is to teach people that you can live well with this horrible disease and be fulfilled and be successful. But you have to really want it with all your heart, to do it. And then I have another one called Lifestyle, where I have menus and I have fun stories like that. So it's like entertaining ideas, things about setting tables and that kind of stuff. So it's a totally different thing from the other one. It's beautifully designed.
Yeah, it's all encompassing, Mom. You're talking about lifestyle, you're talking about cultural experiences, personal experiences, recipes, um, extremely almost your love of anthropology and your deep dive into the research of Mexican culture and food. So your website really offers all of that. So you can't just say it's a chef's website. It's something that is so much bigger. It is really a love letter to your life, to your appreciation of your culture, your family, and all the experiences that you've been through. So I think that's beautiful.
That's beautiful, honey. Thank you so
Of
much.
course. Yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
I'm all right. I'm getting better. When I was a kid and I was a little bit challenging, they would ask my mom, they go, hey, Aarón, ¿cómo está? Mejorando. He's improving. How's Aarón doing? He's getting better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, But the whole point is, for everyone that's having, because I have the Aarón Sanchez Scholarship Fund, right? Where I put Latino kids into culinary school. I know a lot of them have worked with you, Mom, and have been mentored by you. And they consider some of that the most valuable time they've ever spent. And my point is that don't ever give up on a kid. Our youth is the most valuable commodity that we have. And don't give up on children and youth. We might be misguided or misled, but there's always that potential. And that's why, it's so important. And you helped me find that, whether it was Outward Bound or coming to work with Chef Paul Prudhomme, you knew that importance.
And I didn't push you too much in school because I knew that wasn't your thing.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah. But it was all good. I turned out all right, I guess.
Usually the ones that give you the more trouble are the ones that turn out the best.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you don't want that like atypical kid. There's something suspicious about that.
Remember when
Oh.
Rodrigo would not do it. Aaron has a twin brother, And Rodrigo would not break the law for anything in the world. And sometimes I would bribe him, and he'd say, "One day I'm going to remind you that you bribed me to break the law." When we were going into Roosevelt Island to be photographed at that, because it said no trespassing, and no trespassing. And so one day he went to Dalton. And then one day they called me from the school to tell me that he had got into a horrible fight. Mm-hmm. And I said, thank God. I'm so happy that he finally got into trouble.
Exactly. Well, for me, it was like I had too much trouble.
Yeah.
But it was so good. Talk about some contrasting personalities, right?
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, Mom. So, again, we encourage everybody. I mean, this is the launch of our new season, season 3 for Cooking in Mexican from A to Z, of course, on Heritage Radio Network. We couldn't be happier from their support and their partnership for making this dream, honestly, of my mom and I working together, sharing something that's so intimate and personal to us as our Mexican culture and food, as you can imagine, with the intention of making you guys fans and embracing our cuisine and our culture and loving it and cooking it at home and telling everybody you know about it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I know I'm excited to what's going to come. We're going to have a lot of really awesome guests coming up on season 3. We're going to be talking about tequila. What else are we going to be talking about, Mom? Just to give them a little prompt.
Popcorn. We're going to talk about popcorn. Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's Rafael Mier, who is the president of this consortium dedicated to the revival of the Mexican tortilla. Because the tortilla consumption has gone down 40% in Mexico. So it's like a real tragedy. But he's been trying to, because he works with corn all the time, he has found this popping corn. So we're going to talk about that. We're gonna meet. We had Paula Lambert talk about Mexican style cheeses here. We're going to have an expert talking about the crema and all the dairy products, Carlos Yescas. Ricardo Muñoz Zurita talking about seafood.
And then we're going to have Jonathan Waxman talking about the Cal-Mex sort of vibe that happened very early on in like the late 70s or mid 70s about that influence of Cal-Mexican cuisine, which is going to be fun. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff coming. Please make sure that you guys continue to support Cooking in Mexican from A to Z on Heritage Radio Network. We thank you all for listening and your constant support. I'm Aarón Sánchez, alongside my beautiful mother,
Zarela Martínez.
Muchísimas gracias. Abrazos a todos. Los esperamos ahí. Gracias. Thank you.
Cooking in Mexican from A to Z is powered by Simple Cast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at heritage_radio. You can also find us at facebook.com/Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, and more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without your support from listeners like you. Want to be part of the food world's most innovative community? Subscribe to the shows you like. Tell your friends, and please join the HRN family by becoming a member. Just click on the heart at the top right of our homepage. Thanks for listening.
En mis entrañas.